noticed on the question tool, which some of you are using, that the top question that has bubbled up in several ways is this question of crowdsourcing of democracy. And in fact, the top question there right now is about the Pirate Party and its tool, Liquid Democracy. So we read your minds, and we got a spokesman from the Berlin Pirate Party, Jan Hemme, to come speak about liquid democracy. Very quickly, the Pirate Party, which started in Sweden in 2006, now exists in about a dozen countries. And recently in Germany, they have been winning local elections for regional parliaments. And according to the most recent opinion polls, they're polling at somewhere between 10 and 15% of the vote nationwide in Germany. So the Pirate Party is a very new and interesting phenomenon with very strong roots in internet culture. And who better to describe it to us but Jan Hemme. So, come on up.
Thank you, Mika. Thank you, Andrew, for bringing me over and providing me with the opportunity to talk to you about how the Pirate Party crowdsources politics and what are the beliefs or the core questions behind it. So I will be talking about liquid democracy, liquid feedback, and what it means for us to come up with policy in Germany. So the perception of policy in Germany really has changed during the last 2 to 4 years. People are used to take responsibilities in their private and professional lives, and they're used to communicating freely over the internet and among their peers. But they also demand to have a say in all those issues that directly affect them in their everyday lives. And sadly, the political system doesn't reflect these changes or desires. And so what we're seeing is not only a steady downward trend in election turnouts, but also an increase of demonstrations and grassroots campaigns against specific policy questions. For example, internet blacklistings. We had our own SOPA moment in Germany about 3 years ago. Or data retention, which is coming from the EU, but also huge infrastructure projects like airports and aviation noise, or the power grid expansions, or even train station projects, which are budgeted at about 1 billion euros in Stuttgart, for example, which is where you can see one of the photographs here. Now, what unifies all these people? Well, it's an element that is threefold. First, they perceive policy decisions as fundamentally unjust. They also think that they are disproportional in their effects and fundamentally undemocratic. Now, what we propose is a solution called liquid democracy. It's our vision of a comprehensive upgrade to the democratic process through digital age technology. And liquid democracy unifies elements that are both direct and representative. And we think of it as a complete overhaul of democracy. It is a chance to finally redeem the core aspiration of democracy. Being able to vote on issues that concern you when you want to at any time. Now, in the current system, you delegate your vote every 4 to 5 years. And in the system of direct democracy, you have to vote on every issue yourself. What liquid democracy does, it creates a fluid transformation between both systems, and creates something like delegated voting, or it's sometimes called proxy voting. So every participant in the system has the opportunity to vote him or herself or delegate his vote to someone else. And at the same time, revoke that delegation whenever he or she wants to. And so what we come up with in the end is a system of dynamic delegations. Well, of course, this concept, or implementing this concept, will take a lot a lot of time, and it's not really feasible in the near future. But we're already applying these principles today for the interior decision-making process of our party. So what we believe is that politics should be treated as a platform. It should be open, and it should be transparent and not driven by backdoor politics or gray old boys networks. Of course, this creates a huge challenge for us because we've grown dynamically. We currently have a total of about 30,000 members in all 16 federal states of Germany. We have a number of working groups, both on the federal level and on the state level. And we have an enormous number of very active local crews. But we also have MPs in 4 state parliaments now in Germany. We have MPs in Berlin, the capital. We have MPs in Germany's biggest federal state, North Rhine-Westphalia. And we have MPs in 2 more, in the Saarland, close to France, and in Germany's most northern state, in Schleswig-Holstein. One example, the elections in September last year brought us 15 seats in the state of Berlin city parliament. We captured 8.9% of the votes. Now, if you look at all these numbers, how dynamically we have grown and the seats in parliament, this creates a huge challenge for us because we have to fulfill our promise of grassroots democracy. And we can illustrate this problem with some kind of relation matrix, which you can see behind me. And we're constantly looking for tools and using tools that enable us to come up with an optimum mix between participation, openness, transparency, and effectiveness. And there's one tool that plays a significant role in fulfilling our promise of liquid democracy. And this tool is called liquid feedback. What is liquid feedback? Liquid feedback is an open source software that powers online platforms for proposition development and decision making. It is developed by Public Software Group. It's a German non-profit organization based in Berlin. And what it essentially does is that it enables communication between policy initiatives and participants of the system. Participants can vote based on preference, and they can collectively come up with texts and amendments to the text. So it essentially is an interactive democracy platform. Now let's take a look at the software itself. Well, the platform is divided into subject areas, and when you access the software, you can see how many initiatives there are in each subject area, in what stages they are, how many initiatives there are that you can vote on. It even reminds you of that. And best of all, the software is available in English and German. So I've switched to English when I made my screenshots so that you might see some of the features. Obviously, the initiatives are in German still. Now let's take a look at one of the subject areas. Well, in each subject area, you have a number of initiatives. Some are competing, some are not. What it also gives you is a quick overview on how much support there already is for each initiative. And it also shows you whether initiatives have passed the 10% threshold that is needed to get an initiative into the discussion stage. Because if an initiative doesn't make the 10% threshold, then it won't even get voted on. Well, the entire text-based part of liquid feedback runs on wiki syntax. And you have, besides the text, you have a number of features that you can use. For example, you can make suggestions for amendments and rate those suggestions so that every participant in the system knows whether certain suggestions should be implemented. And this is most helpful for the people who put initiatives into the system. So they know how they should change or amend the text that it gets the most support. This is also the place where you can declare your support. And it's interesting because it's a little bit small now, but you can see the supporters and the delegated votes that also support this. In this case, I got 91 natural persons that support this initiative and additional 51 delegated votes. Finally, you can vote on initiatives based on preference. So I can vote pro for 2 initiatives and 1 maybe that I don't like, I can vote against it. Now, liquid feedback is much more than just a voting tool. For us, it's our central hub that connects all the different software services that we're using. For example, members use Etherpads and wikis to coordinate efforts beforehand, before initiatives are put into the liquid feedback system. They're using wikis, Etherpads, and Mumble audio conferencing to discuss initiatives that are currently in the system, that are currently in discussion, or even in voting. And members are using mailing lists and Twitter to rally support. So if you follow a member of the Pirate Party that is very active on liquid feedback, you might see a lot of tweets that say support this initiative, don't support this initiative because I think it's bad for that and that reason. So we are creating a kind of feedback loop between social media services, liquid feedback, wikis, and other collaborative tools. So in the end, liquid feedback is not just about preferential voting. It's much more. It's our way of coming up with good policy in a collaborative way. Essentially, crowdsourcing politics and fulfilling what Ms. Harris just said, bringing politics or net politics out of nerdtopia and giving it to the people. And what we're currently doing is we will have an update of the software to version 2.0 in the next few months. That will make it much more accessible because, as you have seen, it's not very user-friendly. But the next update will bring a much better GUI, and people will have it much easier to use the software and to engage in this collaborative policy project. Thank you.